Let's do this. Eden, Just Be Spiritual Boom here. Hello, Pia and Cullen. Welcome back. Please say hi. Can y'all hear me okay?
You blanked out, but you're back now.
Okay. All right. Please, good afternoon to you guys. Good morning to me. How are y'all doing this morning?
We're doing okay.
We're good.
Good. All right. So everyone, we introduced these guys on episode 41, had them again on 55, and now we're on 63, and they will be guests every 6 weeks. So yay. As usual, we are going to talk about the Great Awakening and where things are right now, and then words from Laarkmaa, and we'll explain that more in a second. They have dedicated their lives to bringing Laarkmaa's words and heart to the world. So I'm very ecstatic to have them here today and to encourage that. And both husband and wife, they are both PhDs, Pia Orleane and Cullen Baird Smith's they are interstellar communicators, writers, visionaries, and intuitives. Pia also being a leading expert on the divine feminine and natural cycles. They started out with classic jobs, let's say that, and yet they have always been unclassical together, and it has to be both of them. We'll talk about this today. They bring wisdom from the stars from a group of Pleiadian light beings known as Laarkmaa. Joining their energies together, Pia and Cullen transmit inspiring and heartwarming messages of hope, love, and peace. And I just want to go right in today. So how, from y'all's perspective, how's the world doing right now?
World's upside down in chaos, but all things are born out of chaos. So I think the world is right where it's supposed to be.
Okay.
I think we're in a birthing process, and everybody knows that any birthing process has its problems, its tensions, its challenges,
discomforts.
So I think we're right on schedule. And I think we're moving towards a better new earth, as long as we understand that there might be a bit of a rocky road during this process.
We've been raised in our culture to believe that everything is linear. Ever since the Julian calendar was replaced by the Gregorian calendar, which, by the way, did you know that April Fool's Day came from that switchover? Because the Julian calendar was based on nature, based on Earth, much like the Pleiadian Earth energy calendar is based on nature. And when Pope Gregory instilled the Gregorian calendar, they named a holiday April Fool's Day for anyone who was still trying to be attached to the Earth. So ever since the Gregorian calendar started, we've been focused on linear progressions, moving forward, linear progressions, past, future, paying very little attention to the present. But the present is really where all the power is. And we don't really evolve in a linear way. We evolve through spirals of energy that are born through chaos. It's in the chaos that something new can be created. So that's where we are in the world right now. We're in a chaotic process, as Cullen said, of bringing forth a new birth.
It's all about change. We humans are very good at trying to keep things the same. We don't like change because it interrupts our sense of safety or our sense of everything's okay, everything's going smoothly. But the problem with that is, if we keep doing the same thing over and over again, we're not going to grow. We're not going to move into an evolved state where change is the best possible element to get us to move into something new, to change what we've been doing. So change and chaos are actually the best possible equation to become more fully who we really are.
Do y'all think it's going to get, I don't know how to ask this question, get more chaotic, or do you feel that we're kind of at the heightened point of it? how long do you think it's going to last? And knowing that we all have control over that. Yeah, give me thoughts on that.
Go ahead.
Well, I think we're obviously completely in the transitional placement, the transitional place of moving in a different direction, moving in a different way.
Mhm.
But I don't think we're at that apex or that final point where we're almost there. I
Mhm.
don't think that is the case. I think we have a lot more work to do.
We're clearing out a lot of negative energies planetarily as well as individually,
Mhm.
all of us. And I think as long as we're clearing the dense negative energies out, we're going to feel a bit overwhelmed by everything that's going on. But the chaotic process is accelerating. So I think you ask how long it's going to last, and that's a really hard call.
Right.
But my guess is that 2023 is going to be full of structures falling apart, new things showing up, all kinds of things shifting and moving. And in 2024, we'll begin to see a breakthrough of real changes. That's my guess.
I think the next 18 months will reveal so much. I think so much that has not been working, old structures, old ways of understanding what we thought was real,
Mm-hmm.
are going to change quickly and radically in the next 18 or so months. So I see that we're going to be in sort of a flux, or sort of an undulating up and down kind of pattern, where we do the classical 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. I think we're making progress. There's
It is a dance. I like that.
Well, it really is. And I think we have to not be discouraged when things seem to be going backwards. I think we need to use that time to reflect more deeply on what we want, who are we, and what are we going to create. So we could say there's still a bit of a rocky road to get through, but we see more and more positivity. We see more and more wonderful changes. People are waking up worldwide. New technologies are being invented that are not harmful to us or the planet.
Mm-hmm.
We've been utilizing what Laarkmaa would say, archaic technologies. Our science here on this planet thinks it's very crafty, very sophisticated, from a much bigger picture, a much bigger perspective that the Pleiadians have. They look at our technology and say, oh my, it's really not that well developed. You could
Yes.
you can go much further, and you can create technologies that aren't harmful. You
Right.
can use energy in a much, much different way.
You guys answered that question beautifully. For me, in the past month, I guess the past month or 2 months, starting to really focus, okay, also focusing on, okay, what's going on globally and being a human being, and noticing those things, but even starting to move further and further away from that into my desires, and really working on myself, and being part of the new vibration now, versus being too hung up on these old things, because there's so much that you can look at and go, oh, this is rocky and this is bad, and oh my gosh, and I still get shocked by things every week. There's still something that I'm like, oh my gosh, look at that. Yet I am doing better, and I want to encourage everybody who's listening and watching as well to take. I'm curious what you guys would add to this, but for me, it's like taking it with a grain of salt, seeing it, assimilating it, and not moving on, but it's becoming more neutral to it, becoming less detached, and knowing this is just part of the process. I think that's it, that this is just part of the process, versus, oh my gosh, look at this, and oh my gosh, okay, everything's going to be okay. And oh, this is, on some level, this is really great. Wow, look at this other thing that just struck me. Whoa, okay. It's all okay. And again, staying in the present, maintaining that peace. Any additional words that you guys would add to that as well?
I think it's very challenging for people to remember that peace comes from within.
Mhm.
You'll never find peace in the external world. It's always going to be chaotic. So if you don't like the way things are going in the external world, doing exactly what you just said, detaching from it, observing it, but not being invested in how it's going is the way to maintain your sense of peace internally. And it's that sense of peace internally that keeps us sane, helps us keep moving forward on our path, and radiates more light out into the world.
I think that's really an important way of living our daily lives. Pia and I like a theory or a lifestyle of what we call parallel community. And what we mean by that is doing exactly what both of you have just described. We can watch what's happening around us externally,
Mhm.
but not only not let it bother us, as you both just spoke about, but we don't have to really align ourselves with what so many people and so many organizations, so many corporations are involved with. We can look at what they're doing and simply say, well, that's one way of looking at life or living our lives, but we choose to live a different way. We choose to live a simpler life, a less technological life, a life more involved with nature. And I think leading a parallel existence, we're not going to complain about what's going on around us. We're going to see it, we're going to observe it, but we're simply not going to live like that. We're going to live in a much clearer, much purer way, which allows us to be happier. It allows us to be more honest, more transparent, more forthright. It's just a more authentic way of living our lives. And I think more and more people are waking up to that idea that they don't have to agree with what's going on. They don't have to be part of the challenging elements that are not really helping anybody.
Nor do they have to get out there and fight it. It's good to speak up, but that doesn't mean you have to constantly be in conflict and fighting about it. If you move into the parallel space, you can overhear in the space you don't like, make your stand, say what you need to say, and then withdraw into your parallel life.
It's a choice that we can all make. And as we do this, and we watch many other people around the world do this, we see people's lives calming down. We see people's lives becoming more genuine, more livable, I guess would be a good way to say it. Instead of trying to compete with all of the things that haven't worked for so long, and simply relaxing into realizing that we're all going to be okay in the end. It's not a contest that we have to do everything the way everyone else does it. We can create alternate communities. We can create other ways of looking at different realities. And we don't have to make a ruckus. We don't have to make a big statement. We just have to do what we choose to do. And interestingly enough, by teaching by example, other people notice how those are doing this, and they're going, wow, I prefer that lifestyle because it looks simpler.
Be more peaceful.
It looks more direct. It looks more filled with life. And I think if we begin to see life in an alternate way instead of the way that most people see it, it will start changing the world in a pretty dramatic way. It may be a slow process, but it's gaining and gaining and gaining more interest by more people.
And to tag on to that too, in terms of competition, because there are going to be, from my perception, so many voices and attempting specifically to confuse everybody. So there's this, and then there's this, and then we're going to throw in again that the mainstream now is connecting on with the word starseed. So I saw an article in Popular Mechanics the other day with this guy basically saying, oh, starseeds are now, that's a trend on TikTok. And he basically said, these are people that believe they're not from this earth, and there's no truth to that, which that's funny as well. Okay, in terms of parallel community, how would you connect that to the Great Split? Is that kind of concurrent, or give me more detail on that?
Well, I think that is a fantastic comparative question that you've just asked.
Mm-hmm.
It is all about the Great Split, actually. It is making the decision to not conform to things that we don't agree with, to not simply agree that we're going to do what good little children are told to do. It's stepping away from that very, very old, very strong organizational way of top-down authoritarian rule.
Mm-hmm.
So it is all about the Great Split. People that are waking up are realizing that they don't have to agree or follow the old rules. So the Great Split is a really good way of explaining how parallel community is coming into existence.
Awesome. Is now a good time to talk about how Laarkmaa came to you guys?
Sure.
And that you have to work together and the energy comes through. Yes, please explain. Please tell us more.
Well, they tell us that they have been working with us all of our lives and many other lifetimes and parallel lives as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they are familiar with our energy. They know who we are. And when Cullen and I joined our lives together, everything changed. It started out with simple little things like we'd hear footsteps coming down the hall, or a chair in the living room would be moved around, or we'd find the water faucet turned on when we turned it off, or a pair of shoes that Cullen always left at the same place for every day were turned around in another direction.
That's funny.
It was classic poltergeist
Yeah.
experience where people say there must be ghosts in the house doing all these tricks, doing all these funny things
Yes.
that trying to get our attention.
But not
Yeah, and
scared.
I love that with the shoes too, not moved, but just turn in a different direction. Like that to me is cute, or not, I don't know when to say cute, but clever and funny. Like not, oh, I'm gonna scare you and put your shoes where they're gonna be hanging on the ceiling or something. I'm just gonna alter them just a little bit.
After we eventually established communication with them, they told us, they said, we put your shoes in the opposite direction to give you the idea you may want to think about the steps you're taking and think about going in a different direction.
It was
We
so,
left the water to help you understand how to flow more through your difficulties.
it was all metaphorical, symbolic communication, just to let us know that there was some energy that was interested in trying to help us evolve in a different way. I mean, it was classically, oh, gee, this must be happening on purpose. There must be something deeper in here. And it just kept happening for months.
But it was a progression on how we got into relationship with them. One night after this had been going on for a while, we'd been out to dinner and we came home and we were talking in the car. Cullen had turned the engine off, but the lights were still on the house. He hadn't turned the lights off yet. And we saw 6 little figures move across the front of the car. And I looked at Cullen and he looked at me and we said, did you see that?
Simultaneously, we looked at each other and went,
Did you
see that?
What
was that?
We know that that was Laarkmaa, who can appear in any shape and any form they want, because Pleiadians can shapeshift. They have that ability. But they were again saying, we're here, we mean you no harm, we're just visiting. They were letting us know they were there.
And over the years, did you finish that thought?
Yeah.
Over the years, they have manifested themselves in so many different comical and interesting shapes and forms. We came home in a snowstorm one night. We were living high in the mountains. We were living at about 10,000 feet. We were really in a very isolated, really interesting place. We drove off of the county road into our very, very long driveway that we had to maintain. And there was a group of deer near the house, and there were always deer around our house, lots of wild animals. But these deer were not standing on the ground.
And they were blue.
Well, okay, that's different.
They were elevated off of the ground a couple of feet, and they were actually blue. And we thought, okay, this is pretty funny. We know who this is.
And then we noticed there were 6 of them, and we said, okay, we know who this is. They always represent themselves with the color blue, because blue is the energy of trust. And they want us to trust that they're safe, that they love us, that they're here to help us. So whatever shape they show up in for fun, it's always blue. But to go back to your story of how we got together with them, the next thing that happened was we were celebrating Cullen's birthday, and we were still living at that high elevation that he just told you about, where our only source of communication with the outside world was a shortwave radio. And as we were sitting down to eat, the radio suddenly came on. And I glanced at the clock and said, did you do that? Did you forget to turn it off? And he said, no. And did you? And I said, no. And we noticed it was exactly the hour and minute of Cullen's birth. So somebody was there wishing him a happy birthday. We got up and turned the radio off. We continued our meal and sort of amusement. The next night, the same thing happened at the same time, and the next, and the next. We plugged in the radio in different rooms in the house. One night, we unplugged it all together. Didn't make any difference. Turned itself on. At that point, we went and stood in front of the radio and said, okay, we know you're here. Who are you, and how can we help?
Okay, awesome.
So that was the true beginning of our communication. One other short little story. A couple of months after that, we were at a medical conference. We had signed up to be part of a medical symposium, and we thought, we're gonna miss our time with the shortwave radio turning itself on. And we were preparing in our hotel room at this conference center to go to the evening talk, the first talk Friday night that would begin the symposium. And just before we got up to go out of the room, the television turned itself on. And
there they were.
And they said to us, you didn't think that we could only turn your radio on, did you? We're much more sophisticated than that. We can turn any electrical appliance on. So there's been humor and support all the way, all of these years.
When we first started receiving messages from them, we got every single message simultaneously. And we started repeating it out loud, so that, Cullen would say it and I would say it, and we'd repeat it out loud, and then they'd ask us something else or tell us something else. We'd repeat that out loud. And then this progressed to recording it, writing it down, all of those things.
So how did it start in terms of communication? Did you hear it in your mind and then you articulate it out? Okay.
And it was like a thought form.
Mm-hmm.
Simultaneous thought form.
Yeah, you had a thought, Eden. What were you going to ask?
Well, no, go ahead. Yeah, it's good.
Well, it began as what we would call a thought form. I joked with Pia and I said, it's like a ticker tape behind my closed eyelids. I'm getting these words, sentences that make absolute sense, but they're short. And then it went from that to actually hearing information, as you asked a moment ago. Sure, we spontaneously began speaking the words at the very, very same time. Same words, same cadence, exactly at the same time.
So they have explained to us that we have to be touching, we have to be connected before they will bring forth any information. I can't do it alone. Cullen can't do it alone. And the reason for that is because Cullen and I are about as opposite as any two people can be. I mean, if I'm hot, he's cold. I mean, we are complete opposites.
Wait. Let me refine that.
Oh, nicely put. Refine it.
In our outer personalities,
Yes.
we would like to say or add, we're totally up. We're 180 degrees opposite completely. But in our understanding of love, the understanding of how the world works, the understanding of the cosmic big picture, we're in complete, absolute alignment.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to personalities, we are absolutely different.
Yes.
And people say, well, that's the classic thing where opposites attract. And boy, we are an example of that.
But the reason that they have chosen us is because in our opposite personalities, we filter out anything that is not pure. If I have a thought or a comment about what's coming through, Cullen will cancel it out through what he's thinking. So therefore, he can cancel me, I can cancel him, and the information that comes through is just pure.
So we don't,
Wow.
what Pia is saying is, we don't allow our egos to change what they're wanting to tell the public through us. It comes through precisely the way they've engineered it to come through us. And we really like this because we feel that the information that they're trying to help humanity grow and evolve through is absolutely the cosmic truth. It's not filtered by the two humans that are bringing the information. It's not changed by our opinions or our own filterization. It's just coming through precisely as they want it to come through. And we feel really good about that because we don't have to think, well, did we change something? Did we want it to sound more like this? Or did we want to make it sound different, happier, sadder, whatever it could be changed through? That absolutely does not happen through our work.
When we were speaking publicly in the beginning, we used to speak simultaneously, and we had
And
to stop
when did this start for you guys?
about 20 years ago.
20 years. Okay.
We had to stop speaking at the same time because people were doing this like a ping pong match. They were getting lost in the presentation instead of hearing the message. And Laarkmaa said, we're going to make a choice here. We want one of you to be the speaker, although we're going to continue to use the libraries of both of your minds.
Mm-hmm.
So you both still have to be present, touching, same rules, but we're only going to use Pia's voice because it's more musical. And the Pleiadians speak in musical and mathematical tones, so it was a good match.
So I didn't get any hurt feelings here. I just thought, this is great. I hear exactly what Pia is speaking simultaneously. So if I were to lip sync, not speak out loud, but I could lip sync what she's saying, and it would look like I'm using her voice if I wanted to, but it's not necessary to do that. But it's interesting because Pia has been the speaker for quite a few years. People often think that Pia is Laarkmaa and that I'm like her Raggedy Andy. I'm just here sort of grounding the situation. And it's really funny because people will ask questions. Well, Cullen, what's your part in this? What are you doing while she's speaking? And I have to say, we try to be very gentle and very, I don't know, how would I say that? Very
informative.
Yes, by saying, no, actually, this is a dual operation. We're both doing the work at the same time.
And it's also good to remember that they came on Cullen's birthday, not mine. And also, he is the one that's part Pleiadian, not me. I'm from the angelic kingdom. So we are from different places. He's part Pleiadian, I'm part angelic. And he's the one who carries the heavier Pleiadian energy. I just happen to have the more musical voice.
Well, not only that, But I think this is also kind of interesting to point out. Everybody has different gifts and talents. We all have our own way of doing what we do in service. Everybody's different. And although I hear voices, I have visions, I'm connected to many other realms. Pia is a very, very special person in a way that I call her a receiver. She is capable of bringing information and voices from such a huge amount of different energies around the universe and the cosmos. So I think there's no doubt that because she's a receiver, it's probably best that she's the one that's speaking, because she's probably better at it. Although I'm capable of doing it and I do it privately, I think she's the right person to be doing what she's doing.
Let me add into that. Was it odd at first, both hearing at the same time exactly, and even just sitting there and Pia talking and Cullen, the words going through your mind? Did it take a little bit of time to get used to that, or was it just synergistic and pretty? Like, it sounds like everything happened very quickly. What would y'all say to that?
I would say it was synergistic, and I would say that we added it up as one more thing in our life that was parallel and exact, because Cullen grew up on the West Coast, I grew up on the East Coast. But when we first got together and comparing our lives, we went through identical things at the same time. You know, a certain age, I would do a certain thing. He would be doing the same thing at the same age. It was really incredible when we started comparing how much our life path had been parallel, even though we were in completely different places. So this was one more parallel coming together finally in a synchronistic way when we were together.
Yeah, it was uncanny to realize that we had been like separated twins. I mean, it was really even a little spooky in a way, because one of us would say, well, I stopped doing this when I was 19. And the other of us would look and go, that happened to me exactly at the same time. Or I began meditating when I was so and so age, and the other one of us would say, that's exactly when I started meditating. So it's really interesting that apparently Pia and I must have had work to do before we met actually here on Earth at this time, because we could have been together from early childhood and been doing things that we could have been doing, but apparently we weren't supposed to do that. We must have needed separate experiences also to develop in the ways that we developed independently before we got together.
My gosh. So I also, through my work, hear voices. So it's like I see things, hear things. It would be just so neat to have someone else who sees them and hears them too, because I've worked really hard on clearing out the messages to make sure they are pure. And it's taken a while to do that and really to work on discernment. But it's so neat to look at the two of you guys. And I have to comment too, it's also, y'all are so good at Pia talks, and then there's a pause, and Cullen, like, y'all are so fluid together. Because I've had guests on the show, two people, and yet y'all just flow in everything. Like, there's a pause. It always works. What would y'all say to that?
Well, I think that's really true and accurate. And I actually love when we speak in public, when we're at a symposium or a gathering, people do notice that the way we speak, we don't over speak each other. We allow each other to finish their thoughts. And it's interesting that we have that way of weaving what we have to say and share in that sort of basket weaving kind of design. It's really pretty interesting.
Has it always been that way?
From the first moment we met.
Oh my gracious.
And then one other thing, I mean, we're taking a long time explaining our beginning with Laarkmaa. which we'd love to talk about.
I love this. So thank y'all for doing. I feel it's very important. So thank you.
But they've done some really interesting things. After we were communicating with them for about 6 months, they said to us privately, how would you feel about going public and actually taking our words out into the public? And we were both working in our respective fields still at that time. And we had to look at each other while they were speaking to us and go, well, gee, maybe. It was a little, you know, I don't want to say scary, but it was a little beyond interesting, let's say.
Paradigm change.
So were y'all in your classic work at that point?
I was working as a clinical psychologist, and I had to go into my colleague group and say, guess what, folks? I'm hearing voices.
How did they respond?
Luckily, they were so supportive, and they knew who I was as a person, and they said,
Right.
That's great. And right after that, we took Laarkmaa to university in California, Saybrook University, to a group, a panel of PhDs there that I knew because that was my alma mater.
And MDs.
And MDs.
Oh my gosh.
We introduced Laarkmaa, and one
No,
of them said,
wait a minute. Holy smokes. I have to sit with that for a second. Okay. I want to know how that turned out. Please proceed.
Well, one of them decided to do the test for the whole group. And he said, okay, I want to talk to Laarkmaa. And we said, no problem. And so we allowed Laarkmaa or made it possible for Laarkmaa to come through.
Okay. And I'm going to interrupt you again. This was only after 6 months. So y'all had been doing it privately, communicating privately, and now you're opening it up. How many people were there?
In the group with the PhD and MDs, I'd say maybe 6.
6 or 8.
Okay.
It was a private gathering that some of Pia's,
I would say current colleagues and former professors.
Yeah.
That's what I would call them. Anyway, they were well-esteemed, recognizable people. And I wanted to take this evolutionary leap by sharing it with them. So one of the ones said, I'm going to take the lead here. He said, I lost something about 4 or 5 months ago and I can't find it. Where is it?
He didn't say what it was. He didn't describe where it could be. He didn't describe anything. And
without even an eye blink, Laarkmaa said, get up and go in the next adjoining room, and there's a sweater hanging in the closet. You'll find it in the left-hand pocket of that sweater. And he came back and said, it's my spare keys. They've been missing for months.
And he with a beatific, very large smile said, I'm a believer.
And then they wrote us up in an astrological and psychological journal. We were written up as the next stage of evolutionary interstellar communication. And it was a very welcoming transition out of being a daily practicing clinical psychologist into being what Cullen and I are now. It was graceful and it was with flow and it was good.
So that was the part about when you speak publicly. And then after about a year or more, they said, we have another question for you.
Another year or so?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
They asked us, would you be willing to write books that we give you the information about and you write the books? So
okay. Okay. Go ahead. Laarkmaa said this.
Yes.
Okay.
So your human friends will be able to actually read what we have to say instead of just listening to us in lecture form. And we said, okay, we'll do that. So we began writing books and we completed that part of their requests. And then as we became more well-known and we were traveling around the world, people started saying in these public presentations, can we speak to Laarkmaa personally? Can we have sessions? And Laarkmaa would say, no, we don't do private sessions because we want to reach as many people as possible by doing the way we do this, by lecturing in public.
And then one day in a public gathering, without talking to us first,
some years later,
the entire group that they would now be offering private sessions, and they were sure Pia and Cullen would not mind adjusting their schedules to accommodate this.
So this
Talking about dedicating your lives. Oh my, okay.
So-
We changed our lives again, and we began doing personal sessions as well as public gatherings.
and this escalated into a very, very busy daily schedule. We were actually probably doing 4 to 6 private sessions per day, 7 days a week for years, for years and years and years and years. We were extremely busy doing what we were doing with Laarkmaa. We actually kept an identical set of suitcases packed with almost similar clothing in the hallway of our home. We would fly somewhere, either domestically or internationally. We'd come home, we'd stay overnight, we'd throw the old suitcases down into the laundry room, get up the next morning, get on another plane and fly out somewhere else.
We don't work at that level anymore because Laarkmaa has convinced us that it's just as important to take time for ourselves and not to always be on and be of service. That being of service to ourselves by resting and regenerating is important too, but we do still keep a pretty busy schedule.
So how many private appointments are you thinking that you do now? Or well, not thinking that you do. How many do you do?
I would say it varies week by week and month by month according to what's needed, because sometimes we have more radio shows, sometimes we have more public gatherings, sometimes there's more openings and spaces for private. So we do work 7 days a week, but in that 7-day period, we will pick one day to take off for us. So it may not be a regular weekend, Saturday, Sunday, but it might be a Tuesday, might be a Friday, whatever. We'll take one day for us, and the other 6 days we're working.
And tell me if this is the same with you guys. So for me, my work is, it's not work. It's regenerating. It's a part of who I am. So it doesn't, again, like people ask me, well, retirement and all that. I'm like, I enjoy doing this. This is me. So I don't, I can't imagine not doing this. So it sounds like everything is more balanced. I guess that's the word, but yet does it feed your soul? Are you like, yay, excited to be a part of this?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. We can tell you that we are way beyond retirement age. And I mean, very beyond retirement age. And Pia doesn't like me to say our actual ages.
Well, you can say
So
it.
I don't.
Just don't call me old.
So
that's
I
all.
don't. But
Let's hear it. What are the
I'm
actual ages?
73.
Mm-hmm.
I'm older than Pia.
Because age is just a construct, right? It really doesn't matter.
It is. It is.
Beautiful.
I think what you just brought up, Eden, is really important. There is a really big difference between calling what you do work and calling what you do play, because here's a tiny little thing that happened to me many, many, many years ago. I was living in Hawaii, and I was going to a weekly Rolfing appointment in an office building that the actual office was owned by a psychiatrist, but the person that was doing the Rolfing would use his office when the psychiatrist wasn't using it for his own appointments. And there was a Xerox sheet of paper thumbtacked to the door.
I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. Rolfing is a form of body work.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
a structural body work. It's a great technique for loosening up our poor old bodies from all the tension we carry
And removing trauma.
Yeah,
Also.
yeah,
Nice.
it's a great technique. So I noticed on my very first visit that this Xerox paper was stuck there, and it said, "A true master will realize that there's a transition that takes place in their work when they decide that their work is no longer work, but it turns into play." And I saw that, my God, probably 45, almost 50 years ago, and that has stuck with me all this time. And by you bringing that idea up, I think it's really important for people to understand that work doesn't have to be work. Work can be play at the same time.
And that paradigm of you got to work and be a contributing part of society, and then you're going to retire, and then you're going to die. Kind of like that control also, that when you do work that aligns with your soul, that also gets you out of this matrix, out of the paradigm as well. And it's funny when people expect you to still fit within that, even though it's like, no. So good. Is there anything else, y'all? That was a beautiful description of everything. Is there anything else you guys want to add onto that, or should we go ahead? Should y'all physically touch, and shall we go into Laarkmaa?
Let's let Laarkmaa talk to the audience. We've talked enough. How does that sound?
Sounds great. I have two questions. If any of that is appropriate to fit in with anything, or y'all could just talk. Whatever y'all decide is good with me.
Laarkmaa loves questions.
Any question that you have in your heart or your mind is absolutely appropriate. One thing that they want to make perfectly clear to us here on this plane of our human existence is there are no bad questions. Every question has a reason for being asked, and they like to be asked questions because they learn from us as much as we learn from them. So it's always an open two-way street. So yes, ask any question you like.
All right. And everyone, this will be our practice today. So really connect, and knowing that your questions will be answered as well. All right. Whenever y'all are ready.
Just be practice.
Hello, dear ones. We are Laarkmaa. Please, dear, give us your heart song, how you call yourself.
Oh, Eden.
Eden, lovely heart song. We are thrilled to be engaged in conversation with you today and sharing this conversation with your listeners. What is it you wish to ask?
Let me start with this question. All right. So I live, let's say, in the state of Ohio right now, really knowing that this is temporary. So I've started looking around, yet through this elevation and the great awakening that we're going through, imagining that at some point I may walk out my door here in this location and it not be like it used to be. So there are many of us that are considering moving and relocating at this point. Should we wait or dream and just look around? Yeah, and knowing there's so much at transition right now. Yeah, hopefully I stated that clearly.
That's very clear. Unfortunately, we cannot give you quite as clear an answer, but you that everything is indeed in transition, and where you are now, you will wake up one morning and it will be different. That's going to be true for everybody who's on this path. The place that you're looking for in community will probably be shown to you and those like you who are seeking the same thing, probably in 2024. But that does not mean that you should sit and wait and dream. If an opportunity comes up, make the move to where you are called. It may not be the final place that you move, but it may be considered a next step. If you look at it all as a process and you move from where you are now to something better, and you think that's it, that's fine. And then perhaps one day you wake up and you're called somewhere else. That's being in the flow. And that's the way communities are going to migrate. Communities on this planet used to migrate according to seasons. They used to migrate according to the energy they felt on the earth and the guidance they got from the stars. As you return more and more to nature, this type of living will return again. That doesn't mean you're going to be living on the land without shelter, but it does mean you need to be more open and accept possibilities of transitional steps rather than looking for a final place. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, that was very clear.
Good.
Very clear. I'm going to take a second and ask something personal, knowing that we're on the show as well. Yet, my daughter Tatum. Okay, I hope this is okay to ask too. What do y'all feel with her?
Well, we don't talk about other people without
Mhm.
their permission because that would be rude.
Mhm.
So we can't really answer anything without Tatum being advised that it's okay for us to talk about her
Oh,
or to feel into her energy. So let's just put a pause on that one.
okay.
And if you wish to know something about her, there are other ways that you can assess what her purpose is, what she's doing, how she is in relationship to you. You can do that through a Pleiadian Earth energy astrology chart, where you look at her energy and your energy, and you see how you are relating together, where she's coming from, where you're coming from. There are ways to do it that are less invasive than our energetically scanning someone without their permission. We are always very respectful of all humans and do not want to reveal or share anything without permission.
Thank you.
You're very
All right.
welcome.
In terms of body challenges, knowing that we are going through this evolution in terms of, people right now having challenges sleeping, dizziness, blurry vision. So I've had a challenge with my eyes because of an infection that I had a while back. So it feels like right now it's being it's more challenging than normal, and knowing that we are also creators within all of this in terms of our health, in terms of our being. What would you add to that?
Yes, the physical body, the mental body, and the emotional body are all being challenged in this paradigm shift as you make transition, because you're moving out of a solid form that is familiar to you, that is carbon based, into a lighter, a higher frequency of a crystalline form, where you carry more light and where you are more fluid, much like we are. So the physical form does have some adjustments to make. In addition to that, this planet has become exceedingly toxic. So you're dealing with not only the incoming planetary and cosmic influences that are here to bring more light into your cells and your DNA and raise your frequency, but you're also dealing with radiation because you have had manipulated weather that allows your magnetosphere not to be protective against cosmic rays as they come in. So you receive more radiation, and that absolutely is causing temperature fluctuations, eye infections and blurry vision, strain and burning, stinging eyes, deep disruptive digestive problems, interrupted sleep, dizziness, inner balance, all manner of things, even including for some headaches. All of this is part of the physical body, trying to sort out what is the higher frequency of the light coming in that's being coded into your cells and into your DNA, and what is the actual radiation from toxicity of manipulation of the energies on your planet. So you're dealing with two streams of things simultaneously, and it's very challenging for you to figure out what comes from where. But you did say the magic words, Eden. You said, we know we are co-creators. What you co-create is an attitude of higher frequency, no matter what is happening in your body or externally around you. And when your attitude is in the higher frequency, that reflects into your light body, which is the blueprint for your physical body, and gives your physical body a pattern of ease and adjustment rather than a pattern of distress, which you would have if you maintained a lower vibrational attitude. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Also, you need to be aware that you are in a place where your planet is receiving more plasma from the source of the photon belt, which you are moving through, which is where more light is coming from. And as your planet shifts from its position in the solar system through this photon belt, and you have more plasma around, that impacts your sensibility as feeling like you're more dense, there's more pain, there's more discomfort, because you're not accustomed to this plasma impact. At the same time, your Schumann resonance, which is the frequency of the earth that you harmonize with, is becoming increasingly higher as your consciousness also becomes increasingly higher. So there are multiple things going on at one time. This month and next month are particularly challenging for you because you have a very, very strong eclipse season that begins on April the 20th and ends on May the 5th. You have a solar eclipse, a full total solar eclipse on April the 20th. And then you have a full lunar eclipse on May the 5th. In between these two times, you have what's called an eclipse season, giving you the opportunity to go inward, to be able to reassess who you are, your life choices, where you're going. There's going to be a lot of energy of releasing old wounds, letting go of emotional patterns, old belief systems, old thoughts, and embracing all of the new that is available to you in your dream of possibilities and in your recognition of a larger reality. So this is a very, very intense month, this month and next month.
In terms of that, where we are right now, what guidance would you give humanity? Ooh, that's a big question. What would you say right now is one? I don't want to say the most important thing, or what could you give us right now? I hope that makes sense too.
You're here, your mission, even though you have individual missions, your general mission as being a light bearer in this culture, this society, this energetic period, is to be love. Your show is called Just Be. We would say, just be love. What does unconditional love represent to you? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What steps can you take to be more loving? What steps can you take to allow more love into your life? The two steps that we would suggest are kindness. Well, 3 steps: kindness, compassion, and gratitude. We would start by saying, make your tones kind when you speak to others, and be kind to everyone you speak to or interact with. That opens the way to compassion, for when you are kind, you can be more compassionate to all beings on the planet. And being more compassionate allows you to move into a state of gratitude where you can be grateful for what you have rather than constantly being dissatisfied with what you do not have. When you're in a space of unconditional love, you focus more upon what you are grateful for rather than focusing upon what you wish you had. Being grateful opens the door for more possibilities. So we would say the most important message broken down is that you are love. So just be love and discover what it means to be unconditionally loving through kindness, compassion, and gratitude. And we think with that, we will close our comments for today. And we look forward to speaking with you again the next opportunity. We love you. Good always.
I want to thank Laarkmaa, and I know that I can do that even when they're not quote unquote there, for and for you guys for dedicating your life to this. And it's one of those things, dedication yet fun, and like you said, Cullen, like play. It's just so, I'm guessing, so fulfilling. And tell me, where do you guys go when you're in the middle of that? You're there and you hear it, yet is it like a meditation?
I don't know how to answer where do we go. We hear everything that's said, but we're definitely not in our normal space.
I would say using a very old term. I would say that we're experiencing the ground of being. We are not here in our physical known bodies. our consciousness is both hearing what Laarkmaa is saying so we can communicate it, but at the same time, we're somewhere else. We're out in another realm or another dimension. So it's sort of a dualistic experience where we're here because we have to be to do the work,
Right.
but we're gone partially because what their energy is made out of is so much bigger than what we would call our human experience here on this planet. I hope that makes sense.
I think so. And it's like when I work with people, it's been really interesting the past weeks. Like usually I do a lot of body work as well, and I know where to move my hands, yet I am feeling now a hand go on top of mine or an energy where it actually helps me move it. So it's like I knew where to go before, yet something is different and more tangible now. I'm starting to get more words and more codes as I'm doing things as well. So each week for me, which I'm assuming is like you guys, especially now, something's different. So it also makes doing this play much more fun because I don't quite know what to expect, and I'm open to the highest good of it all. So I'm just curious with what's going to come next week. And like you guys, when Laarkmaa first appeared, it was like probably, oh, well, look at that. There's another thing. And oh, we're going to do private sessions now. We're going to speak in front of others. Kind of exciting and changing, and y'all have just rolled with it all, which is just awesome.
Well, I think what you're describing is, I think we are now understanding that we're never alone. We're not alone. This is not a singular experience. And by using the example of feeling a hand on your hand is very touching for me, because I started working with touching people when I was 4 years old, and I knew that I was being helped by having some energy helping me know where to go to reach the place that needed the most help. And as I changed what I did over the years, I got involved with the Reiki movement before it came to the continental United States, when it was in Hawaii, where it actually came from Japan, stayed in Hawaii for a long time, and then was introduced to the mainland. In that transition, as I was involved with that, I realized that the help I was getting was increasing. And so what you said a moment ago, I think is absolutely true and important for people to understand. We are being helped. There are so many beneficial, loving beings ready and willing to help all of us in whatever service we're involved with, whether it's hands-on touch healing, whether it's verbal work, doesn't matter what it is. We're being given the opportunity to say, yes, help us. We want your help. And it is changing. And the more we ask, the more the help becomes available.
And Cullen has a really, really special healing touch. I can say, literally, he has saved my life multiple times when I had life-threatening issues going on, and he would calm my heart, stabilize my energy, and bring me back into balance. He's got a real gift with that.
Yeah. How many gifts do y'all have?
We don't know yet.
Very well put. All right, I will close this out with everything that we've talked about today. Just telling everybody stuff, spiritual gifts, your intuition, everything is increasing, and hearing from us today too. Every day is different, especially right now, that your abilities, what you're seeing, what you're thinking, and I love the kindness, compassion, and gratitude. You can make such a change just by being here and being yourself and being open to all that is. Anything y'all want to add to that in closing?
just said it all.
I-
That's beautiful.
Yep, I think what you described just now is probably all of our true missions and our true work. It's being filled with love and using that love in service. That's it. I think that's the simple equation.
All right. All right. Well, we'll wave out if y'all can stay on just a moment. See everybody later. See you next week. Oh, and let's go ahead. We're April 2023 on this recording. All right. Bye. So cool of you to be here. I went from being off most social media to being on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, True Social, and you might be watching this on YouTube, Rumble, or BitChute. Or you might be listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I'm on over 19 directories at this point. So connect, comment, subscribe, like. Oh, and my intention is to have a new episode out Wednesday of each week. Oh, Lordy, more to come.